Now, we're in the season of Advent, and this Advent, we are hoping to raise $40,000 to go out of these doors to people in need, both here in our city and around the globe. So far, we have talked about the benevolent work here in the city. We've talked about our child sponsorships in Klende, Zambia. Last week, we talked about all the partner agencies here in this neighborhood that we are working with. This morning, I want to invite Crystal up to the stage. Crystal is part of our community. She's also our contact with Hands at Work Canada, who's our major partner in Africa. And I wanted to give her a chance to introduce Mark, who's here with us from Africa this morning. So thanks, Crystal.
Thanks, Jeremy. Morning, everyone. Today, as part of our Advent giving, we have the privilege of having Mark D'Amour share with us about a severe drought that has plagued southeastern Africa. And Mark has been a part of this community for a very long time. He first started with Unedited in 2003. And if you don't recognize him, it's because he's been basically living in Africa as part of Hands at Work since 2007. He's actually a missionary that we support as a community. And so we're really grateful to have him with us today. I would just encourage you to connect with him, to say hi to him, to get to know him a little bit. He's a wealth of story and wisdom, and really wisdom that only comes from choosing to give your life on behalf of the most vulnerable, like he's been doing for the last decade. So thanks for being with us, Mark.
Mark, let's welcome Mark to the stage.
Thank you. When Crystal gives an introduction like that, I feel like she kind of sets me up for failure, but that's all right. We'll talk to her after about that. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share today. It's great to be a part of you guys here. And today, as Crystal shared, I wanted to share a little bit about the drought that's gripped southeastern Africa. It's the worst that they've experienced in 35 years. We don't hear a lot about it in the media here, but it's having a devastating effect on our families in that area. When the rains don't come, of course, the crops fail. And for the families in this region, they're mainly dependent upon rain-fed subsistence agriculture. And so it's a major crisis. This is the second year now that the rains have not been good. So it's the second year where there hasn't been any harvest, or if there is, a very small harvest. And so the result is a critical food insecurity and resulting in millions of children who are facing malnutrition. And so in this time as well, with insufficient rain, the wells and the creeks dry up, and so there's reduced access to safe drinking water. As well, in this time, the prices increase for food and for other commodities, so the cost of supporting a family, or the cost of supporting children, increases dramatically. And so the effects can even go further. A family who has little resources now because their crops didn't grow, now also has to find food in some way. They don't have the resources then to have their children in school often. They can't afford the school fees, or they have to take their children out so that the children can do piecework in order to provide something for their families. So in response to all of this, over the last year, Hands at Work is focused on, despite the increase in food costs and the decrease in food availability, to ensure that children that we're caring for have the nutrition that they require. We've also increased access to safe water through drilling boreholes and digging wells, doing rain catchment to catch what rain does fall. We've also focused on strengthening the food security of the whole family. And so part of that is for this current growing season, so they're planting now, we provided farm inputs for a number of families in the area. But the results of the drought, the effects of the drought are going to last a long time. At least the most critical ones being until April, when the crops that they're planting now will be harvested. But even if the rains are good, and they are good at the moment, so please pray that they continue that the rain continues to come. But even if the harvest is plentiful this year, and we pray that it is, even then it's going to take years for the families to recover. So our focus is Hands at Work, and it's always been this way, is to focus on building the resiliency of these communities. The drought isn't what made these communities vulnerable. The drought exposes their vulnerability and compounds their vulnerability. So one of our initial responses was in Malawi, and we were visiting with a mother of one of the families that we were supporting there, and she remarked that in crises in the past, government and other NGOs that were working in the area left. When things got worse, people left. And she remarked how Hands at Work, that it was incredibly encouraging to see that we came closer. And I don't share that to brag about what Hands at Work is doing there. And forgive me if it sounds like I am, but I wanted to share it because I think it emphasizes a critical thing, and that is that to build resiliency, at the core of resiliency is committed relationships. Relationships that are trusting, that are loving, whereby when there are challenges, we draw closer to one another. That is what Hands at Work is striving to facilitate, learning as we go. And in doing so, we begin to experience and to witness to the love and the hope and the joy and the peace that is in God. So building committed relationships, it's a beautiful thing, sounds beautiful, but it's a difficult thing. It takes a lot of effort and patience and learning, but it's what underlies all the outreach that we're a part of here at Commons and that are being supported through this Advent drive. It's also what underlies who we are as Commons. Right? This is the kind of community that we want to cultivate amongst ourselves. And so let me encourage us to continue to push to spend ourselves on behalf of others, to be able to build committed relationships amongst us as a community, out into the city that we're a part of, and globally as well. So thank you again very much for the support that you've provided to me, to Hands at Work, and to the other ministries that are supported here.
Great, thanks so much. Let's thank Mark and Crystal. This Advent project, we have talked about all of these different agencies, both here in the city and in the neighborhood and globally. And we think that's a great way for us to honor the story of Christmas and to give back in ways that we can. Our goal, again, is to raise $40,000 this Christmas. And so if you can and you would like to contribute, just grab one of the Christmas offering envelopes, mark the Advent project box, and you can drop that in the donation boxes at the back of the room. There's also a debit and credit machine in the lobby if that makes it easier for you to give as well.